Welcome to the January Challenge 2023. Happy New Year. We have some lovely treats for you this year. As with every year, we do really well. So we are starting this year with a 7-day run where we are going to learn this gorgeous arrangement of Joni Mitchell's Both Sides Now, arranged for us by Lauren Scott. After that, we have a special mini treat all to do with owls, another Lauren Scott treat. And then following on from that, in the second half of the month, with more rest days in between as well, we have a really brilliant challenge in the shape of a piece from the fabulous Tamsin Dearnley. So, a real treat of a month ahead. I can't wait to share it all with you. I'm going to play for you first the whole of the piece of Both Sides Now so that you can hear it in its full, and then we'll get cracking with learning that first section. Here it is. There's also a repeat where you get to play the whole tune again, but I just did it the once through there for you. Okay, so without further ado, let's get cracking. So we have this opening 4 bars that we're going to work on today. And I like to sort of give you tastes of what's going on with both, and it's about how both hands fit together ultimately. So first of all, the left hand keeps coming down to this C. So I've got my 3rd finger on the C there. My thumb can sit ready on the G. You could just do the C on its own and then go on to the G C. Or you can have the thumb already placed and you can play the C, and then all you've got to do is replace that C. Okay? And then that top note is going to walk down. Keep going to the C, but the top note is going to walk down. So our next pattern is F C. Then we've got E C, and you could change to 1 and 2 because it's a smaller gap, or you can stay with 1 and 3 and just keep that shape, because then we're going to walk back up to the F, back to the G, to the F, to the E. What we're aiming for through all of that, and this is why we do this January challenge, so that we can really get into the detail and make the best sound, aiming for that lovely high thumb, and every time you play it, for it to bend over, 3rd finger to come into your hand. Okay, so if we try that in time, so you'll notice that the time signature at the beginning is a C with a line through it. It's called split common time, I believe, which is 2-2. So yes, there are 4 crotchets in a bar, but rather than counting it 1, 2, 3, 4, we want to think of it as 2 big beats. It's 2 minim beats or 2 half note beats in a bar. So you could actually count it as 1 and 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 some people hate not counting the crotchet as a beat. Some people don't feel comfortable with that. So you can still count it as 4, but the aim is to really lean into this feeling of it being 2 overall beats. So if you want to count it as 4, it's 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2. So we lean into the 1 and the 3. However you feel happier to count it. Okay, so let's try that together. I'll give us a count in. Okay, I'll count to 4 for you because I think you may be more comfortable with that. Let's give that a go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now this will become more apparent as we put the other hand with it, but I want you to be mindful of where your emphasis is. Are you leaning onto that thumb note? Because if we go, if we end up leaning on that, we're going to change the emphasis and the feel of the whole piece. Because really, that thumb note is finishing off the ripple from the top hand. So it wants to not be obvious to the listeners that you're playing for that it's a different hand playing it. It should just be a series of notes that ripple down to this bass C. Okay, so let's have a look at the right hand, and then when we put that together we can be mindful of how that's actually working in conjunction with each other. So the right hand starts with what I would think of as a C triad. So your third finger's on middle C, second finger's on E, thumb's on G. Triad is that pattern where you're missing out a note in between the ones you have placed. Okay. And what we want to do is think about bringing our hand in and just opening it up to those notes, rather than sort of going it's a C, an E and a G, or in the reverse, a G, an E and a C, whichever way you look at it. But trying to be mindful and think of it as one thing and maybe focus on where your thumb lands. It's always good when you're doing a placement like that. Okay, so we have that and we're going to play downwards. So it's 1, 2, 3. And notice how the hand is nicely closing up like that. Okay, so that's a nice C chord. The next one, the thumb note has just moved down 1, but my lower 2 fingers have moved down 2. So I've gone down a third to my second finger on middle C, third finger on A below middle C. Okay, so maybe practice going from that triad. So if you go back to that original triad, close your hand, open it to the next shape, and feel how we've got that slightly larger gap between my thumb and your finger 2. Okay, so that one is F, C, A, and it goes F, C, A, okay? And as we're starting to move further away from ourselves, it's quite nice to sort of think, right, I've played my thumb, I can let my hand travel rather than these ending up as a reach. It's kind of so often happen that we end up like this, especially if we're leaning on our harp, where we sort of play one and then it's really hard to play that third finger without bashing in. So nice elbows out, and it's really nice to travel with your notes that are heading away from you. Okay, our pattern's carrying on down 1 again. So thumb's going to go onto the E this time. Finger 2 is now staying on middle C, and the third finger's gone down 1. Okay, so maybe remember where the previous one was. We had the F, C, A, and now the outer 2 notes have moved down 1. So the C stayed where it was. So now you've got a bigger gap between 2 and 3. Okay, so we're going to play this. This is E, C, G heading down. So we do it together, and E, C, G. Okay, and then we go back to the one we had before. So we're just moving back up our pattern. So instead of walking down 1, we're going to go up 1 with our thumb, up 1 with finger 3, leaving finger 2 still on middle C. And we play the F, C, A again. Ready? And F, C, A. Again, trying to travel with that hand, really thinking about the thumb going over. Okay, and then the next 2 bars are the same thing again. So we're on the F there, we go back up to our triad. So the thumb's walked up 1, and we're back to the G. So and G. See if you can move to the next one, F. Down 1 to the E with your thumb, and back up to the F. All right, so let's do that. We'll do it together, do it properly in time where I count you in. So just the right hand for the moment on that nice triad to start with. And we want to kind of lean into the thumb. Yum, ba da, yum ba da. Okay, so here we go. I'll count to 4 for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. And back up to the triad. Should we just loop that round? Go again. Back up to the triad. G, F, E. So that might have been quite fast. I'll do it a little bit slower in a second for you as well. I think a good thing to do is to try and really internalise those patterns now. Try not to be reading every individual note off the page, but sort of go, right, it's that shape. I'm moving to that shape. So we practice moving through these block chords, moving to that shape, so the bigger gaps at the bottom, going back to this one, bigger gap at the top, and then back to the triad where they're all evenly spaced. Okay? I used to call these, with some of my younger pupils, stretchy bottoms and stretchy tops. So we have our triad, we have a stretchy top shape because there's a bigger gap at the top, moving to a stretchy bottom shape. For some reason that was really funny. Okay, so we'll do it again, just the right hand. I'll go a tiny bit slower. If you've been getting that no problem at all, then use this slightly slower version as an opportunity to really focus on what your hand's doing, and really focus on the high thumb, the low fingers, your elbow being out, and just sort of breathing through it. You can almost blow it away. Okay, here we go. So we'll go bum, 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 and bum, bum, bum. Okay, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and back up, triad, and well done, excellent. Okay, so the other thing to factor in before we put these two hands together, you may have noticed it in your own playing, you may even have noticed it in some of mine on this video, is that because we keep playing around similar notes, for example, that middle C is in every single chord that the right hand's doing there, and we've got the bass C in the left hand in every single chord, that it has a potential for buzzing because we're going onto a string that's already playing. People that have done this with me over the years will be very familiar with my conversation about it being a vibrating string, and what we need to do, we need to go on firmly to stop that vibration dead in its tracks, because the buzz is it's continuing to vibrate against you trying to place onto it. So it's a case of really mean it, really intentionally place, and also go on with speed at the right time. So that doesn't mean go on early. We don't want to go, we don't want to be stopping a note dead that actually wants to ring out. So going on as late as possible in a speedily fashion, and with firmness that really means it. Okay, so just being mindful of that. So as I'm doing this right hand, just really being thoughtful. So being really clean with my placing. It can also be, especially in that one that's moving down, it can be the back of my thumb that's catching on things as well. So I've just played the G, I'm about to place the F, but the back of my thumb might catch on the G. So just being really clean with my placing. So a bit of mindful playing, a bit of really paying conscious attention to what you're doing. Right, let's put it together, okay? Left hand, remember, was C, then it went G, C, down 1 to the F, C, down to E, C, back to F, C, to G, okay, and that walks down twice down to the E, C. Okay, so we'll do it really slowly to start with, just so that you can focus. Effectively, what is happening really is if you ignore that bass C for a moment, we're going nice little arpeggio shape, but shared between the hands. So that's that thing I was saying at the beginning about wanting it to not be obvious that it's a left hand playing a different note. So you don't want to go ya ba dum ba da da dum ba. Don't want to bring it out in that way. Okay, so we'll try it nice and steadily, hands together. Dum da dee da. Okay, nice and slow to start with. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Let's loop it round again. Here we go again. Bring out that top thumb in the right hand. Well done. Okay, so that's what you're going to work on for today. Really thinking, what can I hear? Can I hear G, F, E, F? That's the important bit. As long as that's coming through, you're listening for that sound, and then the rest is a nice ripple, then it will sound great. Okay, I'll be doing the play along video again, where we do it at a slightly slower, slightly faster speed, just to help you get up to it. As you heard from the original, it's not that fast a piece anyway. It's probably a song many of you will already know as well. Well done.